from what I've seen, I don't know the entire story, but I'm going to say it. I think Nick needs help. I think he should go get that help. And I honestly think that, and I'll support him in that vein. If he needs, go get help, I don't think anyone is saying anything other than that. But I do think when it comes to the legal side of things, this is where I think we all have varying disagreements on what's happening with Nick and some of the nuances of the Constitution. Here we go. Constitutional issues with Rekieta case. First Amendment retaliatory prosecution, Second Amendment gun charges, Fourth Amendment unlawful search, Fifth Amendment endangering charge, violating fundamental rights when no harm is alleged. I don't know about that. Sixth Amendment violation, privilege of attorney-client privilege, it's your right to counsel. And there's an Eighth Amendment excessive bail violation. So I said, that sounds like this is a horrible case. There seems to be a lot of constitutional violations here, but I don't know how we got to any of this. So I said, well, you know what? Let me do this. Everybody's been giving us their opinion. Everybody's been trying to figure out. So I want to be fair to Robert Barnes and just say that this is, what he's saying seems to be ridiculous and nonsense. I would rather look at it and see, because, my gut feeling is like, this doesn't make any sense. Do not be fooled, people. This is not a statement. This is not the affidavit for the search warrant. So the way this thing played out is that there was a search warrant. No one really knows why that search warrant exists or what gave police probable cause, but there was a search warrant. An officer filed an application for a search warrant, went to a judge, and the judge said, hey, there's enough information here that will allow you to search this location. Now, it could be for anything. It could be for child endangerment. It could be for drugs. It could be for something else. We just don't know what the details of that warrant is, or what the details of the probable cause in that warrant is. No one has seen that. This frequently happens because in the Breonna Taylor case, for instance, a lot of people were saying that it was the wrong house, but then when we saw the details of the search warrant, you saw that the details were like, oh no, that was the right house. So this is just and only the probable cause for the arrest. That's it.
Stuff of the night. I guess we'll have to address the elephant in the room, which is the news with Rekieta. You put out a post on Locals. I put out my summary just of the legal situation. It's a very sad situation. And someone said to me, well, you didn't show this much. Well, I didn't reply to it. I have to stop replying to trolls. But they said, you didn't show this much sympathy and empathy when it was Hunter Biden. I was like, if you don't understand the difference between all of this, then I can't explain it by way of a comment in Twitter. But so the bottom line is Nick and his wife and a third person who I don't know who she is, but content-wise, but an internet personality, were arrested on, they got charged with 3 charges. One was felony possession of controlled substance over.
There are substantial constitutional questions about everything connected to the Rekieta case. So there's been a lot of focus in LawTube on the substantive charges and those that want to make sure that Nick's health is in good state, and that's understandable. But I think LawTube should start to focus on the constitutional issues of what's taking place here.
So the number one assumption here is that the police, the judge, the prosecutor's office kind of had it out for Nick because he's a vocal critic in that area. So now you're talking, well, first you have to kind of show that they knew that. And it just seems like an assumption that, just because he's a critic, I'm a critic of, when I was in New York, I was a critic of the whole city. But if I got arrested, it would be like, well, are they arresting me because I'm criticizing them, or are they arresting me because I did something bad? I think that's just a hell of an assumption to make. So that's, I think, the first assumption, the whole, they're going after him because, and there seems to be no evidence of it, because he's criticizing the local government. I don't know. That's just a hell of an assumption to make. So he acknowledges we don't have the probable cause for the search warrant. So we don't know why the search warrant's there, but the probable cause for the arrest is simple. We went inside your house, we found drugs, and we arrested you. So that's probable cause all day. If they can do it for your car, they go into your car, you see drugs, they arrest you for the drugs in the car. Like, so he's saying there's some First Amendment violation with this. So, but again, let me at least hear him out. But remember, the probable cause document for the arrest is: we went to your house, we found drugs, there was drugs. That's probable cause all day, every day.
But you go to the probable cause for the detention.
Yeah, no, I don't know. The pastor's name is not coming up, so I don't see the pastor in here. This is the document of probable cause. So he said the pastor's in here. As it's not, because you go to find drugs in somebody's house, you found the drugs. That's your probable cause for the arrest. So I don't know where he got that from. You guys see it just as me. Maybe I missed it. Maybe find it, but I just don't. I honestly just don't see it. So the pastor's not mentioned in that probable cause document. I just don't see it.
Actually alleged in the probable cause. We don't yet have the probable cause for the search warrant. I'm very curious about that.
I rewinded it back.
But you go to the probable cause for the detention, initial detention, and it basically says a pastor came and reported concern for the children.
Normally, if someone says their kids are in trouble, that leads to a wellness check. But we don't know even if that pastor's complaint led to the search warrant. We know he made a complaint, but the complaint could be something like, for instance, they could have arrested a drug dealer, and that drug dealer could say, "Hey, I, deal drugs to this person," and that could have happened around the same time. So then they can go and check that out. We don't really know until you actually see the probable cause statement of the probable cause statement for the search warrant. I believe I remember reading something where the pastor was the one who made a complaint, and that was, I think, kicked off this whole investigation. But that doesn't mean that was the reason for the search warrant. If you understand what I'm saying. Yes, that happened. That could facilitate the investigation, but that doesn't mean that was the sole reason for the search warrant. There could be some other reasons. So, and this is the only part where I hate talking like this, because we don't have the facts. So if I say the search warrant is bad, I would just be misleading you, to be honest with you, because I don't know what the facts behind the probable cause for the search warrant is. They just haven't released it yet.
If Nick is talking to the pastor, isn't that confidential or privileged? And not, there has to be exigent circumstances for a pastor to violate whatever rules of secrecy he's bound by.
Well, again, this is why you try to call out the assumptions. Viva's just made a huge assumption. It's that the pastor was talking to Nick, and that's what led to this particular complaint, to the pastor's complaint. But we don't know. It could be another family member of Nick's. It could be a neighbor. We don't know who talked to the pastor. So we don't even know if Nick has a claim to privilege. It could be someone else. It could be someone who went into Nick's house, I'm making this up, and fixed his sink or something, a plumber, and said, "Hey, I was in there and I saw coke on the floor." Right? That would then be probable cause for a search warrant. So, it's just another assumption that they violated his rights to penance, priest penance privilege, when we don't even know if the pastor got the information from Nick.
All
right. So I think Barnes is wrong here, major wrong. The mandatory reporting laws can lead to either wellness checks or could lead to crimes. For instance, you may have heard this. Matter of fact, I've had some cases in New York where a daycare center will look and see bruises on children or something like that, or see that a child may have been assaulted. And you know what they do? They then report that, and that could lead to a raid, criminal charges, what have you. Children. So that's what the mandatory reporter laws also help in that sense. So it's not just if somebody mandatory reports, it's supposed to just lead to a wellness check. Mandatory reports can lead to something as simple as a wellness check or something as serious as a search warrant. It's a spectrum. So I love what Barnes is doing here. He's making it seem like every single wellness check ever should only lead to a wellness check. That's just not the case. I've had cases at the CEOs with wellness checks led to search warrants and also led to people being arrested. So I don't know why he's coaching it this way, or why he's saying it's supposed to be that way, but that's just not the case.
That Nick has been publicly critical of.
All right. So we got the prosecutor's office he's been critical of, the judges he's been critical of. All right, maybe there's more here.
Exposing issues of corruption and competence.
Corruption and competence.
And a police department he has been publicly critical of, exposing corruption and competence.
All right, people, I'm sorry. So if you say that if you criticize the judges, then those judges can't be judges in your case. You criticize the prosecutor's office is, and if you criticize the police, so all these people, just because Nick is criticizing them online, you got to have more than this, people. And what evidence does he have of this? Literally, it's because Nick criticized them. There's a First Amendment violation. All you people kept sending me this video. That's the argument here. Then you know what everybody on this stream should do? Start going, create a YouTube account and just start criticizing the local government, criticize the prosecutors, the police, and the judge. And no matter if you could prove they heard it tonight, you would be immune from prosecution. You got a First Amendment argument. They're trying to violate you because you criticize them.
The judge assigned to Nick's criminal case is the same judge who's involved in his civil case, the defamation case, where he's.
That generally happens, so and especially in smaller places. You have the judges do criminal and civil stuff. But also, it's smart to note the judge that signed the warrant may have nothing to do with this, and the judge who does the for instance, at Nick's arraignment, the judge who arraigned Nick is not going to be the same judge who does the trial with Nick. That's going to be another judge. They signed it to another judge, and that's the way they do it to make sure everything doesn't get too familiar. So
guns were in the presence of the children or something like that. Nope.
All right. So I think he maybe missed something. So when you apply for firearms, I've applied for them. I've applied for a lot of firearms. And and one of the questions they are clearly to ask you is, hey, if you ever use drugs or alcohol, if you ever use drugs and blah, 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 or illegal drugs, you can't have this firearm, right? It's illegal for you to possess a firearm and possess illegal drugs at the same time. So if I have them both, I'm violating the law. Now I can have my gun all I want, right? I can have my gun all I want. I can run around with it and do whatever, as long as I do it all legally. But then if I go and with that gun, give me 25 grams and I have them together, that is against the law. Having a gun and having a Coke. Having a Coke is against the law. And since you got a gun with it, that's also against the law. This happens, it's like I can drive all I want, but if I drive and I put some Coke in a car, now we go, right? It's a simple thing. So even if the children are in the house, if there's Coke in there, that's endangering the children. So I'm trying to understand the gun charge is simply you had guns, which were legal, but you cannot have legal guns and have illegal drugs. So if you have them both, that's the violation of the law. So I'm trying to understand this two-way argument now. So he's saying the Second Amendment prevents that, but the government can regulate. So with felons, if you're convicted of a felony, you can't have a gun. If you have a drug thing, you can't have a gun. So Hunter Biden is going through this too. So it's pretty clear if you admit on those forms that you're a user